Hey, this is Joseph, John, and Jared from the MTG Thoughtcast, and you're watching one of our Fallout Commander deck reviews. If you want to watch all four of them together in one episode, you can click somewhere over here. There's going to be a card to that. But otherwise, let's get into the video. Okay, so the face commander is Dr. Madison Lee, which is blue, red, and a white for a 2/3 legendary human. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy counter, which is from Kaladesh. And it's literally just counters that you get. It is a counter, right? Yes, an energy counter. So it's like they just build up in the command zone, I think.
Just like sits outside of the game, just like how poison counters do.
Yes.
Can you guess how I feel about energy counters?
Most people feel pretty bad about energy counters.
I hate them. Why did you give us mana and then give us an entirely different resource to manage and track? That doesn't make any sense. That makes sense.
Anyway, so whenever you cast an artifact spell, you get an energy counter. And then she has 3 different tap abilities. So you can tap and pay 1 energy to target creature gets 1/0 and gains trample and haste until end of turn. You can tap her and pay 3 energy to draw a card. Yeah. And then you can tap her and pay 5 energy to return an artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. That's mega cool.
Yes.
Don't use that first ability. That one's bad. So that's Dr. Madison Lee. As you can see, she is signaling that we're casting artifacts and spending our energy. The alt commander, which I actually do think is cooler this time around, is Liberty Prime Recharged, which is 2 blue, red, and a white for a legendary robot. It's an 8/8 with vigilance, trample, and haste. And whenever it attacks or blocks, you have to sacrifice it unless you pay 2 energy. And then for 2, you can tap it to sacrifice an artifact. You get 2 energy and draw a card. This is better because he has vigilance. You can attack, and then with his sacrifice trigger on the stack, you can pay 2, tap it, sacrifice something, get the 2 energy to keep him alive, and draw a card.
That makes sense.
He's very cool.
They're both
especially
cool.
Because go ahead, John.
No, go ahead. You first.
Oh, I was gonna say it looks like even though Dr. Lee is 3 CMC, like you curve into her on like turn 2 or 3.
Yeah, for 2 more, you get an
spells.
8/8 with vigilance, trample, and haste.
Yeah, so like maybe if you play an artifact on the next turn after Lee, you can get 1 energy, but like you really need to have kind of a board state where you're able to accrue a lot of energy to get any kind of immediate value out of Madison Lee. Otherwise, like, because you're trying to get to 3 energy to do anything worthwhile with her. So yeah, I think I agree with you with Liberty Prime. Even though it's more CMC, it's probably a better spot in the community.
Totally.
It's obviously just straight up cooler because big giant mecha.
Oh, 1,000%.
Mecha robot. I'm in for it.
This is amazing.
I love this. From our lore expert Fish, Dr. Lee, and to an extent Liberty Prime, because they're kind of interconnected on each other. They are both
in the background of the art for.
Yes, it is. Yes, that is Liberty Prime in the background of the artwork for Dr. Lee. Both of these make appearances in Fallout 3 as kind of one of the factions of that group, where Lee and a bunch of scientists are working to create the Liberty Prime itself to fight in a war. Dr. Lee herself makes an appearance in Fallout 4 as well.
Nice. Very cool. Okay. This deck doesn't really have many good reprints in it. I actually think it's maybe the worst of them. There's a mechanized production. That's cool. There's an Open the Vaults. That's also cool. Outside of that, there's just not a whole lot going on in the reprint category here.
There's so many new cards.
Yeah, this might have the most new cards of them. This is like 99% new cards. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Let me see here. Okay, couple cards I wanted to talk about. Rex Cyberhound is 3 mana for a legendary artifact creature robot dog. That's a 2/2. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, they mill 2 cards and you get 2 energy. And you can pay 2 energy to choose a creature card in a graveyard, exile it with a brain counter on it, only as a sorcery. And then Rex has all activated abilities of all cards in exile with brain counters on them.
Yo, that is sick.
It's like a weird Azorius Necrotic Ooze that I'm very here for.
I would rather build a deck around Rex than any of the commanders that we have talked about so far.
It seems very cool. So I think Rex is going to do cool things. John, thoughts?
Yeah, it's really neat. Being able to steal activated abilities for yourself, like the mass that you can collect off of that is really really neat.
Hey, you can exile Madison Lee from your graveyard and just have all of those activated abilities.
Bro, let's go.
Again, I think this is one of the only times in these 4 decks that you should. I would personally probably play Liberty Prime in the command zone and then be thrilled to draw Madison Lee at some point in the game.
Yes.
She seems more like glue, and he seems like an unbelievable commander. But yeah, Rex gets you additional value from graveyard things. It also mills your opponents. So if somebody mills like a mana dork, you could just exile it, and then all of a sudden you have mana dork. So that's great. Sean, Father of Synths,
dude,
is another cool one. Yeah, dude.
Just because he's the father of synths.
Father, Jared, that's you.
That's me.
This is Jared, father of synthesizers.
It's too hard to put my webcam around my room. Otherwise, I would. But
yeah.
You would know what he's doing.
So this is 5 mana for a 3/4, and whenever you attack, you may create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of target attacking legendary creature you control other than Sean, except it's not legendary and it's a synth artifact creature in addition to its other types. When Sean leaves the battlefield, exile all synth tokens you control. So as you're attacking with legendary creatures, he just makes additional copies of them that are non-legendary. There is a weird line if you play Sakashima of 1,000 Faces in this deck, where you can make a legendary copy of Sean that doesn't have the legend rule, to where you can make additional copies of him. That's, I think, the only way to have, because it has to target a legendary creature, and it has to be something other than himself from his own ability. Even with Sakashima, you could have them target each other and just make an unbelievable amount of Seans. So that's, again, another cool. I would probably do this in another deck. You could play that with Brutaclad. It would be sick as hell.
Oof. Yikes.
Anyway,
I've got an interesting lore tidbit here about this character from our friend Fish here, that if you remember back from the Little Caesars deck that we were talking about, and that one legendary creature that takes your son in the beginning of the game.
Yes. This is Kellogg.
No, this is the son that Kellogg takes.
Is Sean.
Whoa.
Sean grows up.
No, he never grows up. He was always this age. That's the game tricks you into thinking it's your infant son.
Oh, weird.
My brain is currently broken.
Same.
I don't understand any of the words.
Apparently, according to this here. Sean is the player's son that was stolen at the start of the game that they are involved in. The whole game, you are poised into thinking that your son is going to be a younger kid. It turns out is this 40-year-old man in charge of the Institute, which is one of the factions of the world.
Neat.
Oh, this is like you think your baby's been stolen, but you don't realize time has passed.
It's actually your 40-year-old son.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense now.
Cool. So that's Sean, Father of Synths. I have an aura to talk about, which I know Jared's going to have opinions on.
Ooh, before we do that, I have some other legends to talk about from this deck.
Oh, cool.
I've got Curie written down. Curie Emergent Intelligence.
Curie seems cool.
1 in a blue. Artifact creature robot. 1/3. It's a legendary artifact creature robot, by the way. Matters for this deck. Because apparently Sean cares.
It's true. There's weird legend matters.
Sean cares. Whenever Curie Emergent Intelligence deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power. So you'll get to draw 1. And then 1 in a blue, exile another non-token artifact creature you control. Excuse me. Curie becomes a copy of the exiled creature, except it has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its base power.
Weird. You only get to do that once.
But
because it doesn't
turn him
gain,
into Liberty
it doesn't gain
Prime.
the exile ability.
You could do it to Liberty Prime.
You could.
And then draw 8 cards.
That is hefty.
Yeah. Because you could do this after.
This is like a weird, like,
blocks.
overtake clone. I would see this as like 4 mana. You play it, you exile one of your. Oh, it has to be an artifact creature as well. This gets weirder the more I read it. And it just becomes essentially a better version of whatever you've exiled.
Jank John here immediately thinking, let's try to combo this with Phyrexian Dreadnought.
No. No. Oh, you play it, and with the sacrifice trigger on the stack, you exile it?
Yep.
I like it.
Yeah, it just becomes a better version of whatever you exile. So if you were running your Liberty Prime in the command zone, you just exile him after blocks, swing in. They think they're not taking 8 damage. They take 8. You draw 8. Then you just play your dude next turn. Now you have 2 8/8s. One of them draws you 8 cards every time. That's really good here.
Well, it keeps the legend status. It also exiles the card that you are making a copy
but
of.
I'm thinking Liberty Prime's in your command zone, so you just recast.
Oh, right. So you wouldn't be able to recast Liberty Prime until the Curie copy of it was gone.
Oh, Curie changes its name. I'm used to like the clone token things that like keep their own
Again,
names.
this is so weird because it gains the when you draw card ability, but it does not gain the exile another artifact creature ability. So this is a one-time make it a copy of something else.
So weird.
It's so weird, but it strikes me as very cool and probably very powerful.
Yeah, interesting.
I like it.
Interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting card. I have one more legendary. Do you have any legends you want to talk about, John?
Nah, I'm good.
Cool. I'll just hit this one really fast because Sean was one of my 3. And then Elder Owen Lyons is the other one I had written down. Artifacts you control have word 1, so amazing for the whole deck. And then Elder Owen Lyons enters the battlefield or dies. Return artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So he's just like a solid value piece in your deck.
Again, glue.
Yeah, he's the Ethereum Sculptor or whatever for your deck. Or no, he's not. I'm confusing things. He just makes all your artifacts harder to kill. So anyway, we can move on to the rest of the deck now.
Well, one of the ones I was going to talk about is a legendary creature, if we're on that.
Oh, yeah, let's do it.
Let's talk about Red Death Shipwrecker.
Do it.
It's blue and a red for a legendary crab mutant that's a 1/3 that has a tap ability that says goad target creature an opponent controls. That player draws a card and you add a red.
Okay. Talk me into this.
It's a goading mana dork. It's a goading mana dork.
Oh, you're right. You're right. I hate that it lets them draw a card. I hate that. Bro, the extent of I would pay that 1 mana into a Ristic Study to stop someone from drawing a card. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
you gotta have some fun at some point, Jared.
That's true, but the part of my brain that tries to be good at this game can't turn off.
True. Well, I think it's neat. You don't get mana dorks much in blue-red. So there's workarounds. But I just the fact it's 2 mana and you can just tap to goad something. Oh, also you get a red mana from it. John?
Crab Raven.
Raven. Do you like it, John?
Yeah, do you like it?
It's neat. It's a really cool thing. Yeah, being able to mess up all kinds of combat with goad is always very fun.
Yeah, on a 2 mana thing that just like is gonna sit there and it's cool.
Maybe I'm being too hard on this card.
I think you're being it's not like a good card, I wouldn't say. Like if you're trying to be competitive, I probably would not be playing Red Death. But it's also interesting that it's a legendary creature. Like you could build a commander deck around this.
Yeah, you could.
So you could factor in things that punish people for drawing cards.
Ooh.
Anyway.
Moving on from that. That's an interesting card.
There's an aura I want to talk about called Nerd Rage.
Yes, dude. Let's go.
2 and a blue for enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, you draw 2 cards. We love that.
Yeah,
enchanted creature you have no maximum hand size. And whenever this creature attacks, if you have 10 or more cards in hand, it gets +10/+10 until end of turn. So like baseline on this is like a evoked Muldrifter. Like worst case scenario is it hits, draws you 2 cards, and gets removed.
I like it. I think it's great.
Dude, it's so sick.
Pay 3 mana, draw 2 cards, and accidentally make a 10/10 sometimes.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, no more hand size. Don't have to run Reliquary Tower in here.
Right.
Yeah,
it's like dope. We're starting. Yeah, is this the death of Reliquary Tower? Are there just less and less reasons to run Reliquary Tower now that we have like Thought Vessel and Nerd Rage and all of these other things that say you have no max hand size? Like we don't have to play a bad colorless land in our decks.
Yeah, I'm praying for that day when I don't have to.
Very possible, yeah.
I don't personally run I don't run that. What's the land's name? Why am I blanking on it?
Reliquary Tower.
Reliquary Tower. That was crazy. I think I'm having a stroke.
Are you?
So I don't run Reliquary Tower in any of my decks because I hate playing colorless lands.
The advantage you get for like having no hand size, which is like, how often does that ever matter? Like most of the time, I'm trying to
the
get up
times
to
when you
7.
have it, it's great. But like Thought Vessel is just like, to me, a better version of it because it ramps you. You don't have to play a colorless land. You're actually getting a benefit even outside of having the no max hand size. So I love that they're starting to include no max hand size on things as just sort of random upside rather than like, oh, you have to play a Reliquary Tower now. Because like for a long time, that was like the only way to have no max hand size.
Yeah.
So there are better ways now. Nerd Rage is one of them.
Super
Let's
cool.
go.
Which of the two of you, since we're talking about the artifacts decks, which of the two of you have the deck list open? How many of the bobbleheads come in this deck? I think we have to talk about that now.
3 of them.
3 of them. Yes. Yes, sir. I'm here for
we
it.
haven't talked about the bobbleheads at all.
As your resident Shrines player, yes, sir. I'm about this.
Yeah, actually, it's 2 of them. There's 2 bobbleheads here.
I think there's.
There's
2
only
in
2.
each.
All right.
Yeah.
There might be 2 in each deck. I'm gonna.
No, the mutants deck only has 1 because there's 7 total.
Okay.
Yeah, why would a deck only have 1 bobblehead in it?
Well, because there's only 7. That's just like the.
Right, but they get benefit
They get
based
worse
on how many
when there's only
bobbleheads
one
you
of them.
have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold on. There's a cool thing you could do in this deck specifically, which is
The mechanized production, right?
yeah, you could mechanize production 1 of your bobbleheads. Anyway, yeah. It's not good. Please take the bobbleheads out of the decks.
No, they're so good. They're mana rocks at worst case scenario, even if you never do the bobblehead thingy.
Right.
And then okay, yes, I agree. Take them out of these precons, but build a deck that synergizes around them specifically.
Oh, yeah. I'm very into that.
Break these. The fact, unlike Shrines, the best thing that you can do with these is because they aren't legendary. You take all of those artifact things that can make extra copies or activated abilities or the artifacts that let you untap other artifacts, absolutely break these because they aren't legendary.
In, training grounds, throw in there's a very cool mono blue bobbleheads deck where you could play the stuff that makes artifacts cheaper, whatever the thing is from
Ethereum Sculptor.
Ethereum Sculptor. You can play the card from Karlov Manor that makes your artifacts abilities cost less.
Yeah.
And make clues when you. What's that card called, John?
Academy Manufactor.
Forensic Gadgeteer.
Forensic Gadgeteer. There's a really cool mono blue bobbleheads deck that's gonna lose
Urza.
along with Jared's dog.
It's called Urza. Urza already exists. It's called Urza. You just build Urza.
If you're building Urza, don't do this.
Don't.
One thing that I learned about trying to build a casual Urza deck, it's that's redundancy. That can't exist.
It can't.
Right.
Remember, there was a while that I was building an Urza equipment deck.
Yeah, it was
and
crazy.
It was based around blinking Urza with mono blue blink cards and then putting equipments onto the constructs. And I went, oh, this is still ridiculous.
It was so strong. It was so much more powerful. Everyone at the table was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Okay, back to the
construct every turn. No, anyway.
I don't like mechanized production. I'm just going to say it. I think it should probably come out of this deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's so slow. In place of Aetherworks Marvel.
Oh, yeah, that's a way better card. That is a good one.
Aetherworks Marvel should be in here. It's like whenever an artifact enters the battlefield, you get an energy, which is already good, and then you can pay 6 energy and tap it, and you get a creature for free off of the top 13 cards in your library or something.
Yep.
It does crazy things. I also think there's Fabrication Module and Decoction Module are energy-based artifacts that are not included in the deck that should be in there.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's a couple of other good vehicles from original Kaladesh as well, like Aethersphere Harvester that was really, really played a lot.
Enters the battlefield, makes you 2 energy. It's like if you're doing the energy thing, you kind of have to hard commit to it because there's not many cards around it.
Good opportunity to do so because what we just recently learned about Modern Horizons 3 is that energy is going to be a focus in that deck.
Yeah,
plus,
what the heck?
Yeah, energy is going to have new cards in the main set for that booster product plus the standalone commander deck. So there's going to be a real potential to take this plus the one we're getting later this year. And
I hate it here.
Dude, what? Nobody likes energy. That mechanic needs to just die. That needs to go.
It was not well received the first time around. I imagine it won't be well received in this deck, and it probably will not be well received in Modern Horizons either.
No.
My last bit of cuts that I think you should do for this deck is cut Myriad Landscape, Buried Ruins, and Ash Barrens in replace of the 3 monocolored artifact lands. Because there's a lot of things in here that care about how many artifacts you have, and there's a lot of color pips in this deck.
Yes, Seed of the Synod and Friends.
Yeah, exactly. The ones from the original Mirrodin.
Yeah. Would you add the 2-color ones from Modern Horizons 2? Oh, they already are? Oh. I didn't.
They are already in the deck.
Spoilers, John doesn't have the list open.
Yeah.
You're good, dude. You're
Whoops.
all good. Good.
Yeah, I think there's at least one of them in here. God, I keep looking at the wrong deck list. We're on science right now.
Dude, that kept happening to me earlier.
Yes, Razortide Bridge, Rustfell Bridge, and Silver Bluff Bridge are the 3 artifact lands that you can run in here, and you totally should. But again, going back to Reliquary Tower, I think that if you're playing a colorless land, it better be really good for you. Myriad Landscape is horrible. If you're not playing a monocolored deck that isn't green, Myriad Landscape should not be in your decks at all. That is my commander hot take, is please cut that card because it only finds 2 lands of the same color.
Dude, if you play this on turn 1 and you have it open on turn 2, like at most you just it's terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Again, like in your Shirei deck, it's really good because you need to ramp and you're in non-ramp colors and you're playing a monocolor deck that's not green. So like corner cases. It's also good.
Dude, I don't even play this. I don't play it in my mono red decks.
Oh, I play it in my mono red decks.
I probably should be doing it there, but I hate that card because it's slow as
Again,
heck.
the conditions for this card is monocolored decks that's not green. I will put a Myriad Landscape in. Totally fine. Because also in monocolored decks, you don't care as much about playing colorless lands. But in a 3-color deck, where like one of your lands could be in your opening hand is colorless, that is rough. And enters tapped.
Yeah,
rough. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So cut those 3 lands, add in the 3 artifact lands.
Any other cuts that we should make to this deck? John, you got any cuts?
I don't think so. I mean, like what Joseph said, like again, we've noticed about all these decks is this again is trying to do a combination of strategies. Probably the only standout difference one with this deck specifically is the previous energy cards that could be put in here as upgrades do also synergize along the artifact thing. So I think this would be the one deck of the 3 that you don't necessarily have to focus on picking a lane, but if you want to go heavy in on the artifacts, you can absolutely do that. Maybe even take most of the energy cards out of here. Depending on what you'd want to play. It's tricky, right? Because like if you wanted to try lean more towards artifacts, you kind of lose the most versatility that you get between Dr. Madison and Liberty Prime. So if you wanted to do Jeskai artifacts, neither of them kind of really help fit the bill.
Right.
Jeskai artifacts already exists better than they can do it, so they should just be Jeskai energy.
Yeah, so this is a deck that if you want to tune it, you probably have to lean heavier into the energy counter thing, which is totally fine. Just you would need to go into the deck and find like, okay, what helps expedite this strategy? What can come out? But so this one probably is going to be, again, between the synergistic combination of artifacts and energy and the upgrade potential that we have coming, this one's probably going to be the easiest for upgrades.
Yeah. Hey, did you see that we have the return of Fortification in this deck?
Oh, that's really... No, what is that?
So, CAMP is an artifact Fortification for 3 mana. It's like equipment for your lands.
Neat.
You fortify a land, and it attaches to a land, and it says whenever fortified land is tapped for mana, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. If that creature shares a color with the mana that land produced, you make a junk token.
Wow.
I like it a lot.
Is that card not in Scrappy and it's here instead?
Exactly.
Doesn't make any sense.
Why is that not in the Mutants deck either?
Yeah, that makes
no sense. It's not an equipment. It's a fortification.
Uh,
Last really good card I want to talk about is Nuka-Cola Vending Machine.
Yes, bro.
3-mana
go.
artifact. You pay 1, tap it to make a food, and then whenever you sack a food, you make a tapped treasure token.
We needed to bring up something to talk about Academy Manufactor.
There you go. That's
That card gets better and better every precon that comes out. Is just if you're looking to invest in Magic cards, just buy tons of Academy Manufactors because they refuse to downpower it.
Nope. That card will eventually get itself banned.
Yeah. Hey,
Just
weird
because of
weird
the
design on a card here too is over encumbered. I want to know what you guys think about it.
I actually like it a lot. I think it's really cool.
I think this one's really cool too.
It's a very cool design. I don't like that it gives your opponent so much value. But so it's 2 mana for an aura that enchants an opponent.
Oh, I misread that. I thought I was getting those.
No. So whenever over encumbered enters the battlefield, enchanted opponent creates a clue token, a food token, and a junk token. And at the beginning of combat on enchanted opponent's turn, that player may pay 1 for each artifact they control. If they don't, creatures can't attack this combat.
Okay. I'll hold my thoughts. John, what do you think about this card? Or Joseph, what do you think about this card?
I think that if it didn't have that first line of text, it might go in every one of my white decks.
Same.
But it literally says 2 mana, your opponent draws a card, impulse draws a card, and gains 3 life.
Yeah, they draw. It says 2 mana, your opponent draws.
However, there are so many artifacts running around that this might just say your opponent can't attack.
I know.
It might not matter that it gives.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a kind of card that just has a vastly wide scale of power in a very out of like the box out of these as is. Funny enough, actually played against the deck that this comes in, you know, play over encumbered against somebody who's doing Liberty Prime. This thing is a huge hindrance. If you
never hit you.
Yeah.
Joseph,
it just says they can't attack.
Yeah, your idea of building towards your meta, you know somebody who is playing a heavy artifact synergy deck.
Oh,
throw this in. You will just wreck their day.
Even like without that, like if you're playing against a pirates deck that makes a ton of treasures, like you're gonna shut off their treasure strategy if they never want to attack again. If you're playing against a Voltron deck, like this against Dogmeat is ridiculous. You have to pay 1 for every equipment that you have, otherwise you can't attack.
It's literally never happening.
It also like people criminally underplay enchantment removal, so like this is going to be really tough to get rid of for most people.
Yes,
it's
and your
it's
blues,
a weird space that I like.
If you want, right?
Should this have been a curse?
Yeah,
John.
Yeah, it should be.
Yes, it could have been. Yeah, it very easily could have been a curse. I think it probably didn't, though, because curses have the capability of being shifted back onto the player that cast them.
Oh, sure.
Right? Curses have just enchant player because you can enchant yourself with them. So that's probably why they didn't do that. But this is more because it's more of a status effect from this kind of game and any kind of really like RPG game in general.
Sorry, I just received a text from my wife that said, over encumber, hardly know her.
Yes, Jordan. Yes, dude.
I got a text from Jordan. I was fully expecting, like, what are you doing? Still, we've been doing this for 2 hours. Like, come help with the baby. But instead, it's over encumbered, hardly know her. And I think that's a good ending note for this. I think that's a good ribbon on this episode.